Hello, my name is Terry Brown, and I have the privilege of serving the Liberty Baptist Church of Los Angeles, California, as well as the Judson Baptist Church of Carson, California. I'm a native of Houston, Texas, and it was in Houston where my mother, who had a burden to serve the homeless population, would allow me to come along with her. And as we would serve plates or sandwiches, I discovered that there was no one profile of who the homeless were. There were men, there were women, there were children. There were young, there were old. There was just a conglomerate of humanity. And her burden became my burden. And so we served there in Houston. And then when I moved to Los Angeles over 15 years ago, my family, as well as my church families, began to take it upon ourselves to go to Skid Row and to various other places to provide, whether it's food or blankets or socks or just whatever we could. We couldn't solve the whole problem, but we did what we could. And so it is my delight to be a part of this presentation today. Families are the backbone of every community. Today, you will hear the personal stories from members of families who have experienced homelessness, service providers who aid families in the housing process, and advocates for affordable housing. On a single night, over 171,000 people, which translates into over 53,000 family households, are identified as unhoused in America. As our speakers share their stories, they will unveil the realities behind these numbers. That reality includes the fact that many communities lack shelters for families and youth, especially after COVID-19. Through their stories, we will explore how to best combat homelessness and what those solutions could look like across LA County. Today, we will take a look toward the future, recognizing that we need to continue to build a community where everyone is in. We're so grateful for the support of so many people that have made this afternoon possible. I want to start by thanking our partners in this community who are tackling homelessness head on. Thank you to LA Family Housing, Imagine LA, San Fernando Valley Rescue Mission, CSH Speak Up, John and Marilyn Wells Foundation, and last but not least, Stories from the Frontline. Now we'd like to introduce our first speaker, Pamela Marshall. Pamela joins us today with lived experience with homelessness. She received help while on Skid Row and feels it has been a blessing to be afforded the opportunity to give back to others what has been shared with her through the Cooperation for Supportive Housing, or the CSH Speak Up program. The support from the program provides skill development for people who have experienced homelessness with a curriculum that empowers supportive housing residents to become community leaders and speak out on the issue of homelessness. Pamela loves reading, music, movies, drawing, writing, hanging out with her mom and daughters, spending time with her grandson, and talking to her dad. Please welcome your neighbor, Pamela.
People with disabilities make up over 40% of the people who are homeless in America. I never imagined I'd be one of them. My name is Pamela Marshall, and I'm a CSH Speak Up advocate. In 2003, I was a single mom living in a 2-bedroom house with my 2 daughters. I was working as a hairstylist, and the girls were doing well in school. Things in my life were going pretty decent for a change. My girls were both born by C-section, but in '98, when I had my youngest daughter, something weird happened. I ended up being in a lot of pain from the waist down, especially in my left leg. But even in pain, I had to press on. I had responsibilities. When I made it to Skid Row in 2010, I was scared, alone, racked with pain and guilt because I'd failed. It felt like I really needed to stay drunk and high to deal with that place. You see, at that point, I honestly felt like there was no hope for change. But one morning, I walked into the downtown women's center. I was dead tired, and a woman behind the desk saw me. not the outer shell of what I'd become. She saw me. She called me over and asked me what's wrong. For the first time, I really got honest about my addictions and everything. She talked to me about complete recovery and affordable supportive housing. These were the exact things that I needed for a new start. I went into treatment, then to a sober living home. I even had to return to Skid Row 3.5 years sober. And it was hard, but not as hard as before. You see, this time I came back with a totally different mindset. I stayed at the Union Rescue Mission for 8 months, and I refused to give up. When I moved into my place, just being able to take care of my basic needs meant so much to me. It removed so much stress, and things began to improve in my life. Then I got a job as a peer advocate for Skid Row Housing Trust, right down the block from me. Who knew that my pain had purpose and that there was something just for me right there in that very place that I didn't want to be? Last November, my case manager asked me to apply for an open case manager position. I went back and forth with the idea for a while because Skid Row Housing Trust never hired a resident as a case manager. In January, I started my new position. I recently moved into my brand new beautiful apartment, and everything is working out. Not just for myself, but as I am recovering, so are my adult daughters and my grandson. I'm off Skid Row, but still dedicated to the front line. My lived expertise has opened the door to the work that I do, and it makes a huge difference in giving back. Whether it's in sharing my story, providing case management, or lovingly sharing resources with a complete stranger in need. I am living proof that anything is possible. If you only knew where my girls, my grandson, and I have been, what we've been through, then what we've overcome, you would have no choice to believe that too. From now on, when you see a homeless person, please remember my story and believe me when I tell you that people on the streets have value and purpose. I know because I was one of them. My name is Pamela, and I'm your neighbor.
Thank you, Pamela. Your story is amazing. Our next speaker, Stephanie Klasky-Gamer, leads LA Family Housing with nearly 30 years of experience in social and economic justice work and an in-depth knowledge of housing policy, finance, and development. LA Family Housing's vision is to permanently end homelessness in people's lives. Stephanie is a compassionate advocate and is considered an expert in the field of community development, serving in many leadership roles that shape and promote housing and homeless policy. Please welcome your neighbor, Stephanie.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Klasky-Gamer, President and CEO of LA Family Housing. LA Family Housing is one of the leaders working with all of you across Los Angeles to help end homelessness in people's lives. Our organization has been around for nearly 40 years, both as a real estate developer, building and providing short-term housing, as well as permanently affordable and supportive housing across LA. We are also a comprehensive homeless service provider, engaged in street outreach, diversion and prevention services, comprehensive case management to help people find, access, and secure long-term, permanently affordable housing. LA Family Housing is fueled by one person at a time, by each client that walks in our door. Whether it's a single mom with her 2 little kids, she's not able to work now because she's helping her kids go to school online at home. Or a veteran who might not have been eligible for VA mental health benefits, and he's suffering from PTSD. Or Emily. Emily is one of our older adults who experienced severe homelessness and is now successfully in permanent housing. After the tragic death of her son, she spiraled into depression and found herself standing on top of a bridge above the 5 freeway, ready to take her life. She always told me that it was because of her cat and who would take care of her cat that she stepped off that bridge. But I think she knew deeper her value, her worth, and that she would be missed if she left this earth. She checked herself into a mental health hospital where she was for her 65th birthday. And from there, she was referred to LA Family Housing. Today, I'm proud that Emily shares the stage with me at events or advocates at Capitol Hill. She is a strong supporter of homeless services linked to housing so that people remain stable and successful. As an agency, and for me personally, I do this work for each of those individuals and each family that we serve every day. I've been involved personally with LA Family Housing for nearly 35 years. As a teenager, my synagogue youth group volunteered at the Valley Shelter site, what was our first homeless shelter here in the San Fernando Valley. I grew up in a home committed to social equity and social justice, and my parents taught us early what to do when asked, "Where are you? How will you step up? How will you share the gifts and resources that you have?" During this season of the Jewish high holidays, which we just celebrated Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, there's one prayer that we often say, Hineni. It means, here I am. When God asked Moses before the burning bush, where are you? God wasn't asking Moses, where are you physically? Where are you standing? Where are you geographically? God was saying, where are you in your heart in standing up to be a leader? So when asked, Ayecha, where are you? I grew up learning to say, I am here. Hineni. I come with my full self, my full heart, committed to a cause, committed to seeing something through, and committed to giving all of myself. This is our moment in Los Angeles to bring our full selves, to meet the challenge and vision of equitable access to housing and healthcare. People often ask me, but can we actually end homelessness? To which I always answer, yes. We caused this crisis, and we certainly have the solutions to end it. But we'll do that together. Hineni, I am here to work with all of you. My name is Stephanie, and I am your neighbor.
Stephanie, you guys are doing amazing work. Thank you. Next, we'd like to hear from a family at LA Family Housing that Stephanie has worked with closely. Please welcome the Asagueda family, Eduardo and Lysandra Asagueda, and their daughter, Christina. The Asaguedas experienced homelessness after Eduardo sustained serious injuries in a car accident and was no longer able to work. They met Stephanie as clients of LA Family Housing, who helped them get back on their feet. Please welcome your neighbor, the Asagueda family.
I'm visiting with Eduardo and Lysandra and Christina here at LA Family Housing. Thanks you guys so much for coming in. You can keep coloring. What are we coloring now?
It's
He's got something on his back. Got it.
It's Kristoff. He's carrying the ice.
Excellent. So you guys, thanks for coming in. It's really good to see you again. And I really appreciate you sharing your story. Can you just start off and tell us, what was it like when you experienced homelessness?
Yeah, at the age of 18, I was living at home with my parents, and I lived in a very abusive, and I was very neglected in my home. And I met Eduardo. I started to go to church. I met Eduardo, became my best friend. I ended up marrying my best friend. And 2 months into our marriage, I got pregnant with Christina. And 2 months after I had her, Eduardo got into a really bad car crash. He broke his back, he broke his leg, he was bruised all up, couldn't walk for almost a year. So I had to take care of a 2-month-old baby and my husband who can't walk. So the bills got tight, we ran out of money, we couldn't pay our rent. We ended up homeless, living in our car for a good while, for about 6 months. And yeah, I was talking to my sister, because my sister was homeless at the time too, and she directed me to LA Family Housing. So I came, and you guys were such a blessing and helped us out. And within 3 months of coming and turning in paperwork and looking for apartments, we had an apartment.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And I know, Eduardo, you had shared with me before that you had experienced homelessness when you were growing up as well. What do you think really helped break the cycle of homelessness so that Christina is never going to be in this place again?
The biggest thing about breaking the cycle is that things are handed to you from your parents, from society, from life. Life happens. And finding a way to move forward beyond the tragedies, beyond the loss, beyond the sense of collapse in life is paramount. It's the key to move forward. Finding people who love you, people who care about you, people who will support you and carry you through your hard times in life. Because the thing about being homeless, it's not just about shelter. It's so much more than that. Our system is broken sometimes. And sometimes things happen and people end up in a place where they're broken. They don't feel loved and they feel like they're hurting because they don't know how to love, they weren't loved themselves, or things happen. That's what leads people to being homeless. It's not always just about, having a job and paying bills. It's not that simple. The biggest thing is making sure that she's loved by both of us regardless of what happens in life. I'm going to take care of my daughter and all the people that I love. I want to love people the way that God loves me. That's what I strive for. And I think that that's the answer that I found.
What do you want people to understand about a family experiencing homelessness?
You have to take care of each other. Even if you don't have anything else, you have one another. And there's hope for you. There's a way out from being homeless, from abuse. When I was homeless for my first time, it was because I got into a fight with my dad because he was abusive. I still remember when my dad would hit my mom and I would hear her screaming in pain. I could still hear her. And that stayed with me for a long time. But even though the memory of that stayed with me, the pain of that didn't. I wasn't going to be like my dad. I was going to take care of the people that I loved. And so that's what I fight for. And that's what I do for my daughter. That's what I've done for my wife. And that's what I do for the people that are around me because they matter to me. People here matter to me. So that's what I fight for. And
so you guys seem to be doing great now. Wait, Christina, I was going to ask you. Who's in this picture?
Me.
You? I like these little red slippers you're wearing. Do you have them still? Oh, what happened to them?
I was getting bigger, so my mom told me to throw them away in the trash, and I kissed them before I put them in the trash.
Where are you guys in this picture?
At our house.
Awesome.
We're decorating a Christmas tree.
That's
I ate a candy cane.
Oh, my favorite. My favorite. So you guys are thriving now. What do you really contribute to the stability that you have for your family now?
Well, definitely LA Family Housing. Without the people here, we would have never found a home. I know a lot of times we try to stay positive with our affirmations and our words, but if LA Family Housing wasn't around, I don't know where we would have found the answer. I don't know who we would have been able to go to or what organization would have cared for us the way that the people here did. The people here, our stabilizer who became our navigator who became our stabilizer who stayed with us, it was because she cared about my family. Every time they came to visit, when they gave us hygiene, when they took care of us, people cared about us here. It takes a special kind of person to work here because it's not just a job, it is a calling. You care about other people and you put them first. And when you're not here, you try to find a way to help our participants.
So wait, what did you say? It takes a special kind of person to work here?
Yes, ma'am.
Like someone who would wear a shirt like that?
Yes, ma'am.
I love that you're working here. Share a little bit about what you do for LA Family Housing.
Well, to me, it's a privilege to be here because of the appreciation that I have for our organization as a whole. What I do is I'm a courier, which means I supply the need and I move things. So if a baby needs formula or diapers or wipes, or if someone needs adult diapers or clothing or food, whatever it is, I go to all the sites, our family sites, our hotel sites, I've gone to our quarantine sites, I go everywhere and I make sure that I take care of whatever need is there. So I attribute all of my success to my team because it's so much more than just one person or one role. But the job is to take care of the people here.
Kind of like how we take care of our neighbors.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Eduardo and I'm your neighbor.
I'm Lysandra and I'm your neighbor.
Wow, what an amazing comeback story. Thank you, Osaguedas, for sharing. Our next speaker, Raya, has experienced housing insecurity with her family as a result of health issues. Raya shares her story with us today as part of her journey to stability and security. We are so grateful for her bravery in sharing her story with us today. Please welcome your neighbor, Raya.
Hello, my name is Raya Williams. I'm originally from Philadelphia. I'm the mother of 4 children, 3 girls ages 18, 17, and 14, along with a son age 11. I was married to my daughter's father for 5 years, in which I endured abuse, verbally, physically, and mentally. I ended the relationship after 5 years because I didn't want my daughters to grow up and wind up in abusive relationships themselves. After ending a 5-year abusive relationship, I then met my son's father, in which I became pregnant. Once I became pregnant, he left. I was determined that no more relationships, I just was going to stay single. I stayed single for a while, and then I met my now husband, who we've been married for 6 years. During that time, the children were then in school, and I decided to no longer live in Philadelphia due to the crime, violence, and the lack of education with the school system. So we then came here to California during February of 2017. When I first came here, we resided with my cousin who lives in Long Beach until she no longer wanted us to be with her. During that time, I searched and found the Union Rescue Mission located in San Pedro. San Pedro wasn't a place for me to have my children, so during that time, I went through Google and found the San Fernando Rescue Mission located in Northridge. This was then April of 2017. We stayed there from April 2017 to October 2017. During that time, my husband and I we found employment and had the children enrolled in school. While working and saving money, we found residence in Palmdale. October of 2017, we moved out to San Fernando Valley Rescue Mission and moved to Palmdale into our own housing. August 2018, I started suffering from severe back pain, which landed me in the emergency room. I went to emergency. The doctor there recommended I go see my primary physician. 2 days later, I went to go visit my primary physician, in which he ordered an MRI. I had the MRI done, and during that time, they couldn't find exactly what was wrong with my spine, but they did find that I have a large cyst in the upper right quadrant in my stomach. I have a cyst on my kidney, one on my spleen, and one on my spine. The one they're most concerned with is the large one in the upper right quadrant of my stomach. I'm now waiting to where as though they recommended that I have surgery to have it removed. During that time, I was put on medical leave, and I'm now currently labeled as disabled, temporarily disabled into surgery. I was told by the surgeon when I went the first time for my spine that they're not even sure if after I have surgery, if that's the problem. I'm currently waiting to have surgery to have the cyst moved, and then they'll be able to see what's going on with my spine. I've been to 3 surgeons and still don't have a surgery date. During this time, we wound up residing again into the San Fernando Rescue Mission, where we have resided from October 2017 to this month, 3 weeks ago. We found housing. My husband is now working 2 jobs, and we currently found housing here in North Hills. Being homeless with 4 children in a shelter is not fun at all. The children, while living in the shelter, they weren't comfortable. They did well in school, but I noticed a change in their behaviors. This back pain I'm dealing with also isn't fun as well. My name is Raya Williams. This is my story, and I am your neighbor.
Thank you, Raya. That's an amazing story. We appreciate you sharing it. In June, LA Homeless Service Authority, or LHSA, released its annual homeless count, and they found that over 3,000 families were experiencing homelessness in January of 2020. Finding shelter for people who experience homelessness in LA County can be challenging, but for families experiencing homelessness, trying to find accommodation that will keep the family intact is even more difficult. That's why we need to have supportive housing. Supportive housing is equipped with services on site, such as healthcare and job training, that help people eventually find permanent shelter and pursue fulfilling and meaningful lives. Supportive housing is proven 90% effective in helping people move forward in homelessness. Our next speaker, Corinne Ho, is an organizer for the Everyone In campaign to end homelessness in LA County, specifically through solutions like affordable and supportive housing. Please welcome your neighbor, Corinne.
Hello, my name is Corinne. I am the organizer for the Everyone In campaign in the West San Fernando Valley. My work in the homelessness arena started in my own community of Canoga Park. I would visit people experiencing homelessness, and I would bring them food and the various needs that they have. But then I would also ask them, what do you need? What else do you need? And I really didn't somehow expect this answer at that time. And I recall this lady who told me with so much passion and anger, she turned to me after a few moments of silence and she said, what I need is a home, is a roof over my head, and it's housing. And that really resonated with me, and I started to ask everybody the same question. I would ask them, what do you need? And they would say, I need a home, I need housing, I need affordable housing. And it is at that moment that I decided to join the Everyone In campaign, the campaign that advocates for housing, because we know that homes and homelessness. We have so many families living on the street, and what they need is homeless. There are many unfortunate situations that led them to be on the street, and what they need is housing. So I hope that you join me to continue the fight for housing, for affordable housing, and most importantly for supportive housing for those who are vulnerable, living on our streets and in encampments and in their cars and in any places that is not habitable for a human being to live. Thank you. I am Corinne, and I am your neighbor.
Thank you, Corinne. It's great to hear how supportive housing can create real change in people's lives and help them change the lives of others. You know, communities are weaved together with many different threads. One particularly strong thread is art in all its forms. It crosses boundaries, tells stories, and brings people together. That's why Everyone In Stories From The Frontline always includes some form of music or poetry. I am thrilled to welcome L.A. Ray and Royalty for a performance.
Almighty, Almighty, Almighty alone, Almighty, Almighty, Almighty alone, Almighty, Almighty, Almighty alone, Almighty, Almighty, Almighty alone, Almighty alone, Almighty alone.
I've been
been made new. There's nothing you could do about it. I'm living proof of how the truth will bring the change about you. Rearrange your thinking when love starts to sink in. Takes away the heartache and the pain, getting deeper. Replace it with forgiveness. I hope you get this. Realign your purpose, see a whole new vision. When you rearrange your thinking and love starts to sink in, it takes away the heartache and the pain, getting deeper. Replace it with forgiveness. Man, I hope I get this. Realign my purpose, see a whole new vision. Maybe start my own business. Living is so relentless when you knowing what your worth is. You see the tables turning, I don't trip up on them haters. Tell them I see you later. Don't worry about who tripping, just stay focused on ambition and walk into the favor as I step into the season, knowing everything happens for a reason. Saying, Almighty, 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 O Lord, Almighty, 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 O Lord, Almighty, 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 O Lord, Almighty, O Lord, Almighty, O Lord.
This life that I live, I can't do this on my own, but when I gave it to Him, all my problems made me strong. I feel so good in the end, because I know I'm not alone. I can always call on Him, and I don't even need my phone. This God that I serve, He has turned me to the better when I've been in the dirt, and all my burdens felt so heavy, but He's lifting my hurt. Just know that sin ain't really dirty, but Jesus died for it first. Yeah. Go repent for all your sins, don't act like they wasn't yours. He seen all you did, who once kept it from getting worse. The Lord's protecting His kids, just make sure you wait in the waters, coming back for all His. So don't make His decision hard, He's only taking His kids. The obeying sons of God, so let His light shine along His. And make sure you praise your Father, let His light shine through you, and follow the Lord's commands. Now you seeing the real you, starting to follow in His path, and you feel when He hears you. Yes, God, you the man. Yes, God, you the man. Yes, God, yes, He can. Yes, God, you the man. Yes, God, you the man. Yes, God, yes, He can. Yes, God, yes, He can. Almighty, 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 O Lord. Almighty, 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 O Lord. Almighty, 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 O Lord. Almighty, O Lord. Almighty, O Lord. Almighty, O Lord.
Whew. Thank you, L.A. Ray. That was great. Our next speaker, Faith, is a mother in her late 40s with a 6-year-old son. She grew up in a stable 2-parent middle-class household, went to college, held high positions, and then lost her housing stability due to a high-risk pregnancy. Faith has an amazing and inspiring story of resilience, courage, and faith. Please welcome your neighbor, Faith.
This is a story about resilience. Now, I grew up in a stable 2-parent middle-class family with no struggles in the world except making good grades and winning state beauty pageants. I graduated from high school with honors and went on to the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where I earned a BA degree in economics. I've worked successfully in positions ranging from being an aide for the Secretary of State to the right-hand assistant of a high-profile general manager. I even successfully ran my own business as a hair and makeup consultant. Honey, I had the Louis Vuitton bag, the Gucci shoes. Life was good. And never could I have ever imagined that fairy tale turning into a nightmare. I suffered a high-risk pregnancy and developed carpal tunnel when I was unable to work. And with the bills piling high and no income, I struggled to make ends meet. I was maxing out my credit cards, cashing in my 401k. I got no support from my child's father, and my family didn't really understand my position, so I was left alone. I remember the first time it really hit me. I had just given birth to a beautiful 4-pound little baby, and we were just packing up to leave the hospital without a home to go to. I was broke and homeless. But luckily, I did find a shelter that was full of the love and support that I needed to transition into motherhood. The love of God and their helping hands, they helped me during a time where I was at my lowest. They helped me care for my child. They helped me get into transitional housing and even taught me how to cook because I was the takeout queen. And as the shattered pieces of my life were beginning to come together, I knew I might be okay, but there was still some brokenness inside of me. And I just kept going. And as we moved from transitional housing to my own one-bedroom apartment, with my son in tow, honey, it was just us against the world. But I still needed some type of support. And that's when I joined the Imagine LA program, because they offered me the support and the guidance and the mentoring that I needed, because I want to make sure we weren't going back into homelessness. I mean, my family team manager, the mentors, they were so encouraging and so empathetic. I remember one mentor, she gently challenged me to apply to my dream school to get my advanced degree, and she even sat with me while I wrote my application essay. That action alone put some wind beneath my wings. I was amazed just by the kindness that they showed me. And I knew that I was going to make it, because I had God, I had my son, I had my health, and I had support. And so you see me standing here today as this strong, sophisticated, and sassy woman who has a master's degree from the University of Southern California in education. My son is happy, healthy, and highly energetic, and we finally have some stability. And I know my plan's not complete. There's still some work to be done, but that's just life. We are all works in progress. Hi, my name is Faith, and I'm your neighbor.
Wow. Thank you so much, Faith, for sharing that with us. Our next speaker is a 26-year resident of Los Angeles. For 18 of those years, she has been permanently housed. Alicia is a CSH Speak Up graduate and co-founder of the Baldwin Lamert Crenshaw Tenants Union, which advocates for renters' rights. Alicia holds her undergraduate degree in psychology, so do I, from Antioch University, a master's degree in social work from CSULA, and is a licensed clinical social worker. She's married, a mother of twin daughters, grandmother of 7, and Mama Alicia to countless others who consider her family. Welcome, Alicia, your neighbor.
Let me tell you, being homeless is no way to raise a family. And people know that the shelter isn't the same as a home. Sure, the sheets are clean, but it's still not the same as home. My name is Alicia Rhoden, and I'm here to tell you about raising my children when I was homeless. When I was a young mother, I was in an abusive relationship in Kalamazoo, Michigan. They didn't have much if you were going through abuse. I had to go to the YWCA. I needed to get away from my abuser. So I got on a bus with my 2 twin daughters and only a phone number. When we were called, we were taken to a place called the Women's Care Center in Van Nuys, California. They gave us a physical examination and asked us a few questions, but I made one mistake. I said I was HIV positive. And back then, people were very scary of what HIV meant. So, my children weren't allowed to play. I wasn't allowed to eat with anybody. And then they finally said, you have to go to a shelter for people who are HIV just like you. So I was put in a hospice, and my girls were put in foster care. And the thing about it was, one of my twin daughters, the youngest one, said, who was pregnant at the time, said, Mom, if you die, I'm gonna die because I don't want to live without you. Basically, she was saying that's all she had was me. That was my motivation to get well soon. I spent a year in the hospice. But as you can tell today, I'm not dead. I'm very much alive. I got out of the hospice and went to a new shelter in Pasadena. The worker taught me how to clean, how to cook, how to take care of my children, but I really didn't like it. And I told her I wasn't gonna do it again. And I already knew. Because you see people like me, they think we don't know nothing. We can't cook, we can't clean, but I knew how. And I knew how to do a budget. Then the social worker said they were going to take away my kids because they were rambunctious. I couldn't put them in foster care another time. So we became homeless again. Soon after, my daughters had their first children, 6 months apart. I was a grandmother at 33 years old, trying to teach my children how to be mothers. I was angry and knew we needed to find our own place. But many women do not get help because they don't want to lose their children or they don't want their privacy taken away. For a lot of women, the risk of losing your children just isn't worth it. I know I'm a good mother, a good grandmother, and a long time ago my therapist taught me I was more than HIV, I was more than Section 8. I raised my family on Section 8. That doesn't mean I don't deserve to live my passion. I also want people who are homeless to be better represented. We are not who you think we are. We're not drug dealers. There's a lot of moms just like me with nowhere to go. We aren't labels. We are survivors. My name is Alicia, and I'm your neighbor.
Thank you, Alicia. I want to thank everyone who has spoken today and give an additional special note of thanks to LA Family Housing, Imagine LA, of which I am a proud board member, San Fernando Valley Rescue Mission, CHS Speak Up, and Stories From The Frontline, along with the John and Marilyn Wells Foundation. As the pandemic continues and LA County faces the added challenges of record heat and fires, we must care for our most vulnerable, that is, our neighbors living without housing. It is clear that addressing homelessness is one of the most pressing issues for communities across LA. In LA County, prior to COVID-19, there was a 45% increase in the amount of families experiencing homelessness, and unfortunately, that number is already inaccurate. As we continue to work toward a future with housing for all, we must use current events as an opportunity to build momentum and support for affordable and supportive housing in our communities and to end homelessness once and for all. And now I am proud to introduce our final speaker of the afternoon, Elise Buick, President and CEO of United Way of Greater Los Angeles. In 2015, Elise made history by becoming the first woman to hold the post. Elise is committed to making sure that LA County has enough homes for everyone and that we end homelessness by creating safe, stable, and permanent homes. Please join me in welcoming your neighbor, Elise Buick.
Hi, my name is Elise Buick. I'm the President and CEO of United Way of Greater Los Angeles. I want to thank you so much for joining us today at our Stories from the Frontline event. It means that you are committed to ending homelessness and joining United Way in that vision. Today's event was a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We typically focus on a neighborhood or a geography of the county and bring our neighbors forward who have found housing in that neighborhood. But today we're focused on a special population of people who are experiencing homelessness, and sadly that is our families. Even before the pandemic, family homelessness had risen almost 50% from the year before, and this was before the pandemic hit us. We know that families that live on the edge of poverty, anything can really tip them into homelessness. That can be a medical emergency, the loss of a job, and their inability to pay their rent. So that's why today's event was really focused on better understanding what we can do to help our families stay in housing and to get housed if they are experiencing homelessness in the streets or in their cars. We also unfortunately know that family homelessness disproportionately impacts our communities of color. And so that's why we need your help to lift up your voice to do more in terms of advocating for funding and housing in your local neighborhood so that we can make sure that no family has to sleep on the streets or in their cars. The way you can do that is to join our Everyone In campaign. Go to everyoneinla.org and start to join our workshops and really find out how you can be an advocate for change in your local community. As I mentioned, we still see so many families who continue to struggle with the effects of the pandemic. They are struggling to make ends meet, they are struggling with rent, they are struggling to pay food and utilities. So you can also join United Way in donating to our pandemic relief fund to help more families. The way that we make sure that everyone has housing is through all of us doing our part. And by you being here today, you're showing that you care and that you want to be part of the solution. My name is Elise, and I'm proud to be your neighbor.
Thank you, Elise, and thank you for the great work that United Way is doing to solve this homelessness issue. Together, we can make sure that no family experiences this pain. The issue of homelessness is an interesting one because despite knowing the solution, people continue to experience it. Homes end homelessness. And as we face LA's current housing crisis and fight this COVID-19 pandemic, it is important to remember that we can emerge from these things stronger and safer as a community. We can create a city where everyone is in and everyone has a home. Thank you for joining us tonight to hear the lived experiences of those who have experienced homelessness and the work taking place to end homelessness in LA. My name is Pastor Terry Brown, and I am your neighbor. Thank you.